I've been drinking Two Women a lot. That's my go-to. And
does your wife know that while you're gone, you're drinking Two Women?
She it's my favorite. Two's better than one, right?
Ooh, there's the intro for the show.
This week, we're joined by Clint of Lake Effect Brewing to discuss his collaborations during the pandemic and the future of his brew pub. This is episode 48 of The Malting Hour.
What's the hats on the hops, got yeast and speeds. This the Malting Hour where we talk about our drink and tell you what we think every other week. And if we get drunk, well, we might slur our speech. Got the gift of gab, the friends you wish you had. Join us for a drink, join us for a laugh. Time is never wasted, where you getting wasted. The Malting Hour here, people take your places. People take your places. People take your home.
Welcome to the Malting Hour. Here we are in March, the middle of March, and we're joined with someone who's already been on the show almost to the year or to the day a year ago. Before we get into that, I am Tony Golick, always joined with
Brandon Winninger.
And sometimes when we allow it and we feel like it's necessary, which is rarely.
But now we're on a roll, Clark Fettridge.
Yeah, kind of. We're doing Zoom. We're joined with Clint from Lake Effect. Clint, welcome back to the Malting Hour, man. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thanks. Yeah, you're right. It's been a year because we had the pie. We did the pie episode.
Yeah, that was the last time I was inside a brewery, and the last time I was in a large crowd of people, because that was right before. Brandon, you figured it out. It was about a week before the shutdown happened, right? The shelter in place.
Yeah, because everything closed down that following Monday is when the orders went out that things were shutting down, and that's when you started hearing about people getting busted for having their St. Patrick's parties and all this other stuff because St. Patrick's was during the week. I did not expect the year to go like this, but hey, you know what? This is a great way to kind of come back full circle, now that things are starting to get better and, not only for, civilization, but it sounds like things are getting better for Lake Effect with some progress going on with that firehouse you guys got going there.
Yeah, we got
right into that.
Got all the approvals we need so far, so
yeah. For those that are unaware, actually, Clint, I know we've talked about it the first time you were on. Let's do a little rehash about where you're located now and the size, and then as Brandon has brought up, you've just newly acquired a space that is a bit bigger, and you will actually have a tap room. But tell people what you're working with now and what you have been for so many years.
Yeah, I mean, we're in our 10th year of operation, and
congratulations.
Yeah, we've been we're located at the end of an alley behind the Chicago costume shop, and we've been we're on a 7-barrel brew system, and we do 7-barrel batches, tanks. We have a fairly large barrel program for our size. So barrel aging is a big chunk of what we do. We make a lot of other different styles of beers. I like to think they're very easy drinking, balanced styles that you're meant to enjoy. Several of them, if you like, and carry on a conversation. That's been kind of what we do. And we're also a bit of a chameleon type, where we're working with a lot of different people and learning a lot of different things, and we'll be branded different things. And we just kind of bounce around, collaborating with a lot of our local, colleagues or small business fellows, so we've been doing that for many years. We're very rooted in the community. We enjoy being community focused. We enjoy being small. We we don't really have a lot of ambition to be, some giant brewery on every shelf. And a lot of our customers, they not only visit us a lot, but they're subscribers of our different programs. Like we deliver beer to people's houses, and whether it's a 6-pack a week or every 2 weeks, or if you're part of our barrel club or a growler club, we have a lot of clubs, and and that's just kind of how we've been focusing our energy, is to try and develop direct relationships to the customers as much as we can. And so we're really hoping, we kind of model part of our brewing operation on like the wine club model, or like a winery, because we do so much barrel aged beers. We find them very special. They're kind of expensive, and so we get you on a subscription of that. And we're hoping with this new law that is hitting, hopefully going for a vote in the next month or so, that's going to allow us to do shipping as well.
Yeah,
And
that would
so
be awesome. I really hope that comes through. Speaking on like your collaborations, that was one of the things we've had one of your collaborators on the show a couple of times now, Stephanie of Fanny's, and we know you've done a lot of collaborations. What are some of the people who obviously don't know? I mean, people who've listened to the show, they know you actually come up a lot on the show. You're probably mentioned as much as we mentioned Goose Island, if that means anything. We do. Yeah. No, definitely. We've drank a lot of your beers on the show, just not with you. Second time on. But talk about some of the collaborations that you did, because obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but it's been a struggle for small businesses and especially breweries during the pandemic to maintain operations, especially with the restrictions. And I feel like you almost had a leg up on that, as maybe at one point, when you're describing the brewery that you have and the space that you have, people I know come in and I'm like, oh, this isn't a tap room. Like, you don't have, the where you're at now is not not a tap room. It's a bottle shop, but you're, have a sample. I feel like you almost had an advantage to be able to be like, well, I already didn't have a tap room, so not worried about that. But now what can I do to get the beer out? And your collaborations seem to, you're still open. So I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, we're an essential business, which I still don't get, but
I don't get that either. But I'm happy that that was an essential thing. What are some of the?
When we learned we were essential, I was like, bingo, that's it. All right,
going back to work.
So what are some of the collaborations that you've you don't have to go through all of them. You've done a bunch, and I know that we and friends of ours have either participated in as getting the beer and stuff. I've also helped deliver some of the stuff, and we've had people that we know who've worked with you. So what are some of the ones that, like, give us some examples of maybe like some of the collaborations that you've done and how you came to them, or maybe just like what your favorite collaborations have been? Obviously all collaborations are fun and good, good for business for everybody, especially with who you're working with, but maybe some of the ones that you enjoyed the most.
Well, I mean, we started doing it just because we were all freaking out at the time, and my natural reaction was to reach out to some of the other businesses that were having a tough time, and just seeing what we could do together to try and drum up some sales. We didn't know it was going to last a year. We thought it might just be 2 weeks. We didn't know at the time. So that was just, and I reached out to Stephanie right away because we had already done this beer and pie thing, and I had a bunch of the beer left over, and so they were going through, I mean, at least from the social media and talking with her, it was an emergency over there. So
yeah,
I just felt like I wanted to help out, and we had the product, and so that's what started it. And then we saw the success of those collaborations, and we started reaching out to other businesses to see what we can do, and we're still doing it. I mean, we have a lot of things coming up. People aren't as excited about it now. We have to kind of like jab them a little bit more with the social media. But I would say, I mean, we had a really cool one that was just a couple weeks ago where we paired a 6-pack with with an indoor house plant, and it was a local business that just opened called Sunnyside Plants. And
my wife tried jumping on that. I actually sent her the text. I was like, "Hey, look, you love plants.
Yeah,
I love beer." One of the plants that she wanted to, she has so many plants. One of the plants she wanted to get that was already gone. So I was like,
"Oh, really? Yeah."
You don't want the other plants, jeez.
Yeah, that was a cool one. I mean, the winter. I mean, with all the snow and everything, it just seemed like people needed something like tropical in their lives, and we put
Green
the beer. A lot of our tropical themed beers were paired with the plants, and it just seemed to work out real well. We did another one with Tone Deaf Records where we did a 6-pack and an album, a curated album, and answer these questions about music. And this guy Tony will put together, he'll find an album for you.
Tony,
not you, Tony.
No. I know that
Better, Tony.
Yeah.
Tony did find a great album for me because I did take part in that.
It was fun. Yeah.
That was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, we were going to do it again for Christmas, but it got, we just ran out of time. But so that was a fun one. And that was very successful. I mean, and then we still have a lot of running ones, like with Superdog with their gift cards. We did the bowl of chili with North Branch fried chicken because they put our stout in their chili, and awesome. That was pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna do one with the soap guy, and
you got to get clean. After you're drinking. The best thing to do is to hop in the shower, maybe in the morning if you had a couple, and the hair of the dog doesn't have to be the beer that you drink. The hair of the dog could be the soap that cleans off the stink.
Oh, nothing wrong with a shower beer, so we're all set.
Oh, that's true. Shower beer.
Yeah. Those are some good ones. Yeah, there are so many I can't remember, but yeah, during May, like March to June, we did a bunch, and basically anybody that we've worked with, that we've done collaborations with in the past, we kind of hit them up for new ones, and just kind of went around really focusing on the restaurants and the other smaller businesses that were hit hardest by a pandemic. We felt we were given new life. We were given the option or the privilege to legally deliver to people's houses. That's another thing that this law that's going out is trying to make permanent, is deliveries to people's houses. So we've retuned our whole business to that, and so we're really pushing to make that legal because permanent, because I think that it's just a great way to get your products and get fresh beer, and it's good for us because we know the beer is going to a good home and people are going to drink it. We're not
like children. Children or pets going to good homes. Yeah.
Well, we're not going to have to pick it up late. That's every brewery has to pick up a certain amount, and it could be anywhere from 10 to 30% that they have to bring back. Yeah. And it's good for small breweries. The large breweries, they don't, they're not going to want to deliver to someone's house, but someone small like me that it's just really community focused. It's just such a great way to get to get going and to build relationships with your customers.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I really do hope that that's something that passes. Just the convenience of it too. No matter what, with vaccines and things kind of opening up, I know that I'll still be cautious. I'm still even cautious now about, wanting to go out to, now that, breweries are opening back up and you can go into a tap room, sit down and have a beer inside. There's plenty that I want to go to, but I'm still like, do I really want to go? And do I really want to go to a store, to go and buy beer? So having that option will still be nice, in the future. And even after things, hopefully die down and things return to somewhat of some normalcy. Like you said, it's really cool to be able to have fresh beer delivered to your house. Yeah. I mean, busy people, could use that, and not having to stop some places. It just kind of makes sense. You have food delivered to your house when you can't make dinner.
Yeah,
or you don't want to make dinner.
Amazon, yeah. Instacart, everybody does that. That's just the way things are done these days, whether there's a pandemic or not.
Right.
If you're at home with your kids and you want to watch a movie, you can just pick up the phone or just hit our website, and then beers will magically appear. And that's just the world we live in. And the fact that, we have to take it through this chain of middleman to get back to the customer, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense from a functional standpoint on a small footprint.
Sure.
If you're going out of state, obviously you need that apparatus there. But if you want to deliver something to the guy, like, you've got the people that live like right down the street, and they say, "Oh, I live by your brewery all the time," and just getting it to them. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense.
Like me, who lives right down the street. I mean, not too far.
Yeah, you're on my walk home. It's so easy.
I was going to say, Clint has walked home several times probably and dropped beer off. But the cool thing about like the legislation that might pass too is not only does it allow for the continued of home delivery, but it will open up the option for you to do at least, statewide shipping or and shipping to some other states. So that could open up, obviously. You'll have people that move out of Chicago and still want to get your beers. Mm-hmm. So that would be, obviously an awesome option for them to get it shipped. And then, you have, for those that don't know, like Clint has a barrel club that you can subscribe to, and that could open up a whole other, avenue for you is, shipping barrel club beers to people mm-hmm. for, whatever price, and I think just being able to do that is, for a small business, is awesome, Yeah. For the big dogs, they're everywhere anyway for the most part. But being able to do that, and get your beer into other places, and it's not like you're pushing it to people that don't want it. Like you're offering it to people that want it. Like they're coming to you, they're purchasing it and you're shipping it. So
yeah, you're not running the risk of it just sitting on the shelf and having to grab it back, as you were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the winery model. I mean, you think there's a lot of breweries in the United States. There's like double the amount of wineries, and a lot of them are just focused on very small areas that are just, in their locality. But then they get visitors from out of town, and, they want some of that wine shipped back to them. And so that's very much the model that is starting to shape up. There's so many breweries. There's not that much shelf space. When you got to go to sell your beer, it's a real hassle these days, because you got to stand in line, and they may buy it, they may not. Like you may spend a year trying to sell your beer to one place, and you've put in 30 hours just to do it, to sell one keg, or a couple of cases of beer. So it's gotten to that saturation point where there has to be a more flexible model to allow us to have direct relationships with our customers. I mean, for the big stuff, for shipping out of state and getting into all the stores and everything, that distributor relationship is important. But a lot of people are scared that it's gonna destroy the 3-tiered system or whatever. It's not.
No,
We've been doing it for a year and nothing has changed.
Yeah. It's more of an adaptation. I think it just helps, helps out the smaller businesses to be able to still have their foot in the door, and not have to worry about being, pushed off the shelf for something else, And that's a really good comparison to the wine model. I didn't even really think about that.
Most wine from wineries, I mean, they don't even go to the shelves. They go right in people's boxes and shipped off to them or to a local restaurant, and that's just how they are. That's as much as they can produce, and they don't need to go through this system where they got to throw all this stuff on the shelf and have to show up every day to sell it. When you go to a tasting, it's always great because a lot of people buy your beer on that tasting. But remember, the next day, another brewery is going to walk in.
Yeah.
They're going to do the same thing. And it's like, it's just this, I don't know, it's the samsara of just endless, like smiling and here, try this. And I love doing that, but I'd like to do it in a way that's, more direct. And
I will say some of the most fun I've ever had working for you was when I did some of the tastings at just at Benny's, standing around, because I love doing it because I loved the beers. It was a lot easier to go to that. Like, I know all these beers, and I can and I'd be by some of the people or the reps that were there that really didn't know anything about the beer. So I kind of took pride in this is the actual beer that I buy, and that I know the guy who runs it, and I know all these beers, so I was able to stand there and talk about it. That interaction goes a long way, to have the tastings and stuff, to have someone buy it, and now to have that option where it's like, well, maybe I'm not going to be back at, I did this at a fest, or maybe I happen to be in the neighborhood of this liquor store and I tried it and I don't know where to get it. It's so much easier just to now be able to hopefully
call me up and
hey, I want this delivered to my house.
I don't remember where it was.
I remembered your name.
You have it, and can you send it to me? And I could say yes. But right now I have to say, well, where do you live? Okay. We don't really go out there. I'll call someone. No, they're not going to buy half a case. They're in the story.
So real quick, we're all we talked about, sometimes when we talk with breweries or do a show, we'll do specific beers. And I did ask you, to recommend what beer you think we should drink. And it turned out the three of us all have different beers. And I did want to kind of just talk about that. I didn't want to lose sight of what we're drinking. I'm going to go first because I think mine might is either mine or Clark is the oldest. Mine's been sitting in my fridge. I had a bottle of your mixed bag wild ale with grapefruit, aka the Pamplemousse, which was you did a VIP event, which we'll talk about those as well. People should your whole way of doing that now is also very fun. This beer, I remember having the Pamplemousse, was probably a long time ago when you're doing the 750 milliliter bottles, and I think my brother-in-law Mike still has one just sitting, and I don't know what he's waiting for. Let's just drink it. Let's just drink it at this point. Jesus. But this is one of my your sour beers and your wild yeast beers have always been very good and very unique. You can get some wild fermented beer, and that's the fun about wild fermented beers and wild yeast and everything. But your beers in particular, I know you've worked a lot. I believe, was this with Omega yeast? Was this one of the Omega yeast one, or is this just a different culture of wild yeast? Because I know you do the other Omega stuff. Yeah,
we've gone through three. I don't want to get too detailed in it, but
give us an overview.
Yeah, the overview is we've gone through three stages of our wild program now. And so one of them was we were working with yeast that it turned out not to be wild yeast. It It was a scandal, in
Ooh.
fact, and
I think I remember this.
a lot of breweries
Yes, I remember this.
did not know, but it was I forgot the name of the strain, but it was sold as 100% Brett fermentation,
It
and
was lacto, wasn't there lacto in there?
no,
No?
it was just a really juicy and high temperature fermenting yeast. God, I forgot what it's called. You still see it out there. Some people use it for hazy IPAs because it gives like an extra kind of
Juiciness to it.
yeah. It's sort of like a Capri Sun type fruit punchy thing, and
Clark, find out what that is. We need it.
yeah, it was nice. Yeah, especially on the first fermentation. We tried to reuse it a few times, and it seemed to ferment faster, but it would lose that. It was almost like it was getting contaminated with some other kind of wild yeast or some saison yeast. But anyway, that was the first stage. And then second stage was we actually got the the real Brett, and that was we were using the Dre strain, which was it was a nice one, but it unfortunately kicked off a little. What it's known for is it kicks off a lot of THP, which is that sort of it's that Cheerios sort of Fruit Loops flavor that can, in real high doses, it can be kind of mousy, and so we decided to stop using that. We had a lot of good fermentations happen with that, and then there were some beers that just a little bit of the THP is can be a desirable trait, but on some of the beers it just kept getting a little higher, and some people say it's with the oxygen mixing in during packaging, but then it should go away, but it almost never goes away, and it's always with that specific strain.
That sucks.
So that's why we started doing School of Brett, to start introducing new strains of Brett and to try. So we've now used like 20 different strains of Brett's, and we know how they work. And
the School of Brett was one of the most fun VIP events that I ever got to be a panel member on with you. The school, it was just so much fun trying all those different strains. And for me, being someone who, as we talked about on the show, like around this time of the year is when after having all those barrel aged beers, like big beers, as you're like going, like once you like get into fall and you're like, this is it. This is when all the barrel aged beers are coming. We've talked about this numerous times. We go in, we go ham on that. For those who don't know, the kids say that's hard as a motherfucker. That's right. I just swore on the show. We went ham on all those barrel aged beers. But around this time of year is normally when I'm like, I want something lighter, and I end up, this is the second year in a row that I've done like sour beers brewed at home. So it was really nice to get into that before, because this was in the summer, I think, when you did the School of Brett VIP event, and I got a chance to try all of those beers, and all of it was really good. I mean, and that was that the second time you'd done the School of Brett, or the third time?
Yeah, we've done two. We're on our third one now, and yeah, we've gone through all their strains. So
it's really good.
Use every strain of Brett they have.
Yeah, and that's with Omega Yeast, and homebrewers who listen to the show. I know there's a lot of Omega Yeast has really become a household name for homebrewers, as much as Imperial Yeast has when it comes to those wet yeasts or liquid yeasts. They do awesome stuff. I love using actually I use their Kvike yeast quite a bit. Omega does good things, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the Brett stuff and the sour stuff. I wanted to say that this, for how long that it sat in my fridge, when you weren't on, I opened it up and I was like, I don't know about this. I'm going to say it's good. And as I kept drinking it, it did give me, it's still good. It is still very good. I think it kind of caught me off guard that when I remembered what I was drinking. It's really good. It's not too tart. You still get that nice, grapefruit in there that has not subsided. There is that, like, you have an orange juice and there's that like citrusy side of the tongue type feeling in your mouth or taste in there with the sourness, but not like, punching you in the face. It's not sour. It's just very nice and a little funky. And I love it. Pamplemousse is still remains one of my favorite beers that you do. So just so you know, if you have one lying around, Clint, you can drink it. It's good.
Yeah, the wild ales they're not going to go bad on you.
They'll go wild on you. Am I right?
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe, but if they're refrigerated, they're going to pretty much stay where they are. If you leave them out, they'll change a little bit more. But the nice thing about that batch and everything that came out of the School of Brett is there's no THC on those beers. They're very pure Brett. We didn't age them that long in the barrels. So we purposefully kept it at about 7 or 8 months. That's what, that's how we designed the project with Lance, kind of overseeing, we just wanted to give people a sense of what the Brett is doing. I think a lot of people, they get those beers and they think they're going to be some like lambic or some shit, something like that. But it's not that at all. We're not going to release, we're not going to release the lambic in a 4-pack.
Just do it.
Some people are they are aging them. We did a good job of keeping a good supply of it, and we're just kind of letting it do its thing. And then for this year, we should have some vertical on the year before, and so we'll kind of see what it does after it goes another year. That's the thing with wilds and sours. There's a lot of experts out there, and some people just kind of hit it right, and they've done a good job. They've done a lot of research, and but just keep in mind that the breweries that have historically done it really well, they've been doing it for hundreds of years, and it's just we're in year 10 and we're just now like really have gotten used to doing the experiment and fermenting a few different strains, and then from there it opens up a door. Okay, you have all these strains now in barrels, and then you can start to blend them. And so it's kind of like baby steps. So some people will jump right in and have that, but we've taken the wild beer and we've tried to pull it apart and use as many of the different strains and then try and put it back together again. So it's a very long process because each experiment is 8 months, and it's like, all right, there you go, 8 months.
Let's hope it turns out.
By the time, and then you're like 50 years old, and you're like, this is the only thing I've done all my life, But
yeah,
we're getting better. Always getting better.
Yeah, it's always fun to try those. I always look forward to trying all the wild ales and the sours that you do. But Clark, now you have what?
I have Lake Superior, the bourbon barrel aged Belgian style quad ale.
Yeah, so I wanted you to kind of talk about that because we've talked about this a few times, and Clint, I know I've talked to you about it. Brandon and I actually just recently talked about it because when we did the last year's Fanny's, the bourbon barrel aged chocolate cake stout, that we feel like it's a highly underrated barrel aged stout in Chicago.
Oh yeah,
like it's
100%.
It's really good. I think how much I like it. I mean, not only is it because Stephanie's a part of that, and you guys, I think it's awesome the way that you guys actually just add cake to the beer itself, but it's such a good beer that you're your barrel aged beers to me are top notch. And Clark, this is your first time having that?
Well, I thought it was. I bought it thinking it was. And then I looked at Untapped. I apparently drank it 5 years ago. And I loved it back then. I'm like, okay, great.
Consistency. That's what it's all about.
So
when did you get it? Where did you get it?
I bought it at Capone's this afternoon. Why?
Well, that might be 5 years old.
That's
great.
true.
Oh, sorry. Did I say that?
Yeah, you can say
that. When I saw my check-in, I thought, oh, is this also 5? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't have known it was 5 years old.
Yeah, because it's a quad. I thought you were going to say barley wine, and then when you said quad, I was like, oh, okay,
it has
at least a couple of years old.
It was interesting when I started drinking it cold. It definitely tasted like a quad, and then as it's warmed up, it's got a lot of barley wine in it, which is real cool. How it's kind of made that transition over the past hour or so they've had it open.
Well, the two styles, they are very similar. All it really is just a yeast that defines it. The grain bills are I mean, they're just big, strong, malty beers, and some have kind of a spicy edge to them, and that's due to the yeast, and so it's probably the quad, and the barley wine's a little cleaner. But yeah, I'd be very curious. I do not have I don't have one of those in my collection. So
go to Capone's.
Yeah, go to Capone's.
Yeah,
for all your needs.
Capone's. We've got freshies. We got some oldies. We got beer, baby. Come to Capone's.
Yeah,
I'd drink it again.
Yeah,
you're still in the front row.
It's right up there.
Yeah. I've got good, you know what? I've got really good presence there, and the beers they have are they're all slamming beers. I mean, they're just, people just walk right past them and go to the Hop Butcher, but I mean, or the Goose Island or whatever, but he's been trying to move them, and every year I'll go in and I'll buy a few back from him and put it in my shop, and they'll sell right away. But I mean, I just can't explain it, but that's just how it is.
Yeah, part of it is the marketing and the audience that goes in there. Because I mean, I know that people that go to Capone's, there's certain things that they're looking for when they go into Capone's. They're looking for the big heavy hitters and the popular stuff, and which is it's a plus and a minus, because if we want to call you the secret sleeper brewery that makes delicious stuff that nobody, not nobody, but there's a huge selection of beer lovers that don't really know about, they're walking past some gold,
Yeah.
And even the Fanny's cake thing, Tony talked about it. I loved that. We grabbed it. I grabbed it when it came out from you guys directly. I had it delivered. And then I was walking through Benny's. I saw it and I'm like, well, I'm going to grab a couple more because it's here. And it was right around when Fanny's did their first closing. And I was in Benny's and I'm like, oh my God, this is still here. I'm grabbing a couple of these. Yeah, man. I mean, it's such good, it's consistently good beer that is what is sad that people miss out on. So
yeah, and what's nice is the bottles have been holding up over the years. Where I mean, I know early on we had some issues with them souring in some cases, but yeah, they've held up, and I mean, yeah, they have our Niagara Falls. I mean, that's one of the highest rated beers on Untapped, and it just sits right there. It's are you kidding me?
It's kind of
I remember the brew day, when I made it. I mean, these beers are so hard to make, but anyway, I digress on that. They will sell, and one day I'll come in and buy them all and sell them.
Not if we get there first.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you do that, let us know, and maybe we can all sit around in the brewery together. We'll just go through. We'll do a trip down memory lane of all your barrel aged beers. We'll join you.
That's when we do the opening of the Firehouse episode.
Yeah.
Or you can do an episode at Capone's,
Oh,
Yeah.
and we crack open all the beers that are there.
Actually,
You know,
let us invite in our secret guest, Clint
Yeah.
from Lake Effect. We're gonna drink all of his beers that are on your shelves right now.
No, I mean, don't take me wrong. They're awesome customers. I don't want. I mean,
Yeah.
but I'm always surprised. And this happens at a lot of stores. It's not just theirs. Where I don't know how. I don't know how to get the buzz on those beers, and I feel like I need to hire plants to go in and on different websites, and I don't know, but it's
we'll be those plants.
a lot of those beers went out. They went through Tavor, and they went to the West Coast, and people are enjoying them out there. But anyway,
yeah, I was gonna say, like, this is definitely not a knock on Capone's, because I know all three of us, we have, and Clark, you don't live far from there. It's kind of cool to go there because it's almost like, I mean, there's some of the beers that I look and I see and I'm like, that is not a new beer. I know it's been, I heard about this a few years ago, and it's kind of fun to go and be like, let's see how this ages. Let's see how this turned out. So it's kind of cool picking through like some of the fresh stuff and some of the stuff like, yours that, that Clark happened upon. Like, that's awesome that he was able to snag it. It's there. It's kind of one of those fun, like, ooh, look what I found. Because Clark, I think I've even texted you before where I was like, yeah, so I found this thing on the shelf and this has been out for a year now and there's another 4-pack left. You should grab it. I forgot what beer it was, but Capone's is great for that, which I like. It's a treasure chest for all your Lake Effect past needs.
actually, a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely. But Brandon, you are actually drinking the beer that Clint had suggested to us, which is a more recent collaboration for you, Clint.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So this is the Madeira Barrel Aged Imperial Stout with Sumatra Coffee, which was a collaboration with Percolator. So I had gotten, when these released, I was buying something. I forgot what I was buying, and I remember. I think I'd messaged Clint. I was talking to you about something, and you're like, "Oh, why don't you get the Madeira too?" And I was like, "Okay." So I threw 2 of them on here, and I had one in December. And I was blown away. I was like, this beer is awesome. Like, this is probably one of my, next to the Fannies, this is like a solid barrel-aged beer. What I thought was odd, or not odd, but like, so it's Sumatra coffee. So you get, I'm getting a little bit of the coffee, but I'm getting more like barrel. And I'm getting more of like the dryness of the wine, and it's awesome. Like, it doesn't feel like it's 13%. Which is a bad thing or a good thing. I don't know.
Our Thursdays are becoming a mess.
Yeah, right. It's so smooth, and like what do I want to say? Like, if I'm using technical terms, like, it's such a very like silky mouthfeel. And then I'm getting some oakiness in there. And then like I'm getting that like on the back of my tongue, like when you drink a glass of wine and it's a little bit dry, like I kind of feel it in the back of my mouth. I'm like, this is solid, man. This is, like I said, like next to the Fannies one, because that's chocolate cake, and like I can't not chocolate cake. This is probably my next favorite like barrel aged stout that you've done.
Yeah, that was a fun one. And as it aged, because I had one a few weeks ago, and I texted Joe, who owns Percolator, said, you got to pop one open, because what happened was the coffee was much more pronounced when the beer originally came out. Like, it was really strong. And then what happened, I guess the coffee mellowed a little bit as time went on, and then some of that barrel character kind of popped out, but the sweetness from the wine somehow merged with the coffee, and what I got was just a lot of like baker's chocolate on it, and it was just it just turned into like I kept reading the label, I'm like, is this the chocolate beer? And it had like completely chocolatified, and I've never that really surprised me, but I enjoyed the older version as much as I enjoyed the younger one. So
it's
we
like
are
having a
seeing,
newer beer. It's like having a new beer that you didn't have to work for.
Mhm.
You know, well, you worked for it, but
Well, we
you
have
didn't have to do anything different to get this new beer.
yeah.
And that's what's kind of neat about it too, because now that you mention it, I think I do remember like when I had it in December, there was a little bit more coffee. And for me, it wasn't that. I didn't think it was that strong, but maybe again, it was like a month after I'd gotten it. Maybe it mellowed a little bit in the bottle, but that kind of fits the bill for some coffee stouts that I've had, where you get them fresh, like the coffee is really prominent, and then you hold on to it for a while. The coffee does tend to mellow and kind of blend in with some other things. But then I feel like depending on the coffee or depending on like the brewery or whatever, like. Well, again, this is talking about holding on to a coffee stout for a couple of years. Like that coffee will come back with a vengeance and will not do good things.
Green pepper, baby, green pepper.
Yeah, the green pepper is what we've experienced, and when we've tasted some like older coffee stouts. But
Goose
I mean,
Island
the
Bourbon
way
County
this
coffee
went
stout.
from like that subtle coffee note that I got again like a month after it was released, and then to this beautiful blend where I'm getting more of that wine. Because that's what I was expecting too. I was like, I want more of that wine, and I feel like I'm getting more of it now.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that was a real fun one to do, and yeah, it just keeps. I'm glad I still have a few bottles of that left, because that one just keeps giving.
All right, Clint, hold on. I'm gonna order one. Hold on to one for me for the weekend then, because I already told Brandon. I was like, look. When I first saw this, and this is me being totally honest, because we're honest on this show.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, let me give a backstory. This one time, you and I at a tasting, at a VIP tasting, one of those VIP tastings where people had left, and maybe me and Mike were still there with you, drinking a lot, and we had that happened. Never happened. That's a made up thing. You had already had a stout that it was you were testing, or a stout that you had aged in a wine barrel, and then we were blending it with a barrel aged stout, and you were like, you hadn't released anything like that yet, and you were talking about, I really like the way this works, and I liked it at the time, and then the more I thought about it, I was like, I get the idea, but man, a wine barrel aged stout just doesn't sound all that great to me. But now the way you guys are talking about the way that it is, and how it's kind of developed, now I'm sold. And now I feel like if I don't get a bottle of it, don't try it,
that's why I put the
do a disservice to myself.
Well, that's why I put the coffee in it, because
I love your coffee beers. Thank you.
The Sumatra coffee has like a big like berry note on it.
Oh yeah.
Berry or cherry. And so like I heard other reviews of people drinking it, and they're like, well, I don't taste the coffee, but the coffee, it was because the coffee had so many like fruity notes to it that it just kind of blended in with the barrel, and the Sumatra it's like a really earthy, fruity type. It's a different animal from other coffees, and like Joe introduced, he had such a good blend of it, and that's so I felt like that would enhance it, as opposed to the bourbon barrel. We did a bourbon barrel version of it, and that was really good too. You can't go wrong with a bourbon barrel, but
no, not at all.
Sometimes the wine aged stouts, they kind of hit people differently, and they're waiting for that bourbon or that rye or whatever, and then they don't get it. They feel unsatisfied. They just got this big fruity note.
You're going into
They don't know. They're just like, oh, this didn't meet what I was thinking, and so maybe be a little open-minded when you try it, but if you just don't like that flavor, you just don't like that flavor. But that's what I've seen, is that the wine barrel, that's why I went with the Madeira, because the Madeira is like really sweet, and I think port would actually work really well too. I saw Off Color did a port barrel aged stout, and everybody loved that too. And I knew they were probably getting a lot of the same flavors that Brandon's talking about. So it is a thing. It is a good barrel to use, but it won't meet expectations if you're not ready for it.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think I'm ready for it. And when I go to try it, I will check it in. If I don't like it, I won't check it in on Untapped. I'm not going to drag it down because don't. Okay, that is something
that was you.
I'm going to throw that out real quick. If you're drinking a beer that you don't like the style, don't drag it through the mud. If you don't like that style, then don't check it in like, this is gross. Do you like Pilsners? Nope. Then why are you checking that in, loser?
Yeah. Well, there's a difference with like checking it in and like giving it your personal rating, so when you go back, but like going in and trashing it and being like,
just don't rate it. Yeah, just don't.
I hate this fucking beer because I hate Pilsners. It's like great.
Like, I don't. Yeah,
don't buy Pilsners.
I try not to read them anymore. Good
move.
When you're brewing the beers and you're looking at those things, and it's just another thing you gotta stress you out on. But there are some really, really stupid comments out there.
Like, I was gonna say, like, Untapped should have a warning, like you put in what beers you like and don't like, and when you go to check one, and it's been like, look, dude, you don't like this beer. Are you sure you want to check it in? Like, oh yeah, good point.
Did you mean to check in this beer?
Yeah.
Some of the comments are really funny though, but it's I try not to look at it. I know I can usually the newer brewers, they tend to really go crazy about it the first couple of years being open, and then you stop hearing about it. But there were a couple that really bothered me, and then one time I responded to one, and I was a little bit wasted, and I was like,
I'm gonna nice you.
I'm like, what the fuck do you know about Belgian wits, you motherfucker? Blah blah blah. And the dude like jumped. He and his friends like jumped all over me, and for like 3 days, like they were just trashing my beers, and I was like, please end. And then finally they stopped. But so the best thing to do is just like
ignore it.
Don't first of all, don't look at it while you're drinking, and second of all, like just ignore it. If there's something really bad, if there's like a problem, like if someone opens it and it like gushes everywhere or something like that, then you should respond to it via email and try and make it right. But for comments based on taste or style, like just let it go.
So you're saying that there should be an Untapped warning for brewers that says it's 3 a.m. You've probably been drinking. Are you sure you want to respond to this guy's comment?
Can't do it. Yeah, there's that movie Chef, which
I love that movie.
I was watching. I was like, oh no, because I've been through that. It's so
true. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's learning. Brewing is an art, and it's literally going in and learning to take criticism, and then understanding, like, just like art, like not every taste bud is the same. So I've learned that, it is what it is, and it's like if the people that are coming to you directly versus going to Untapped and are telling you that they like what you do, that's the review that matters versus internet dude.
Sometimes they're right. I mean, sometimes they're right, and you gotta hand it and say, this is a common comment on this beer, and let's review it and see if we need to revise the recipe and do something different or change something in our technique. So I mean, I'm looking for stuff like that, and
and that's constructive, like on your part.
Constructive
versus like when the people are like, oh, this beer has hops. It's like, it's a beer. There's been comments like that.
Wait, who says that?
I think it was.
Who says that?
I want to say it was like Pipeworks or something. Like after like a beer fest, and they were looking at all the check-ins, and somebody was like, "This beer has hops in it. That's
Yeah.
gross." And it's like, do you not realize what beer is made out of? Like, come on.
There's also the
funny.
infected comment, which really, like, we released a barrel-aged beer, and like the first check-in on it was, I think this is infected. And I'm
Jesus
like, oh my
Christ.
God, like,
Why would you say that?
you cannot say that. Like, and
Yeah.
we go in and we're tasting all the beers, and we're like,
I opened like 30 bottles and I was chugging them all, and I'm like,
no. We're like, we tested this thing, man. Like, it went out. Like, how can you say that? And
yeah, that's crazy.
it's like, what do we do with this guy? Like,
Clint, I learned the hard way not to just ask you about something. I asked you about Super Shake. I go, is there something different about Super Shake this year? And you're like, why? What's wrong? And you ended up opening up a bottle while I was texting you. And I was like, no, man, I was just, nothing's wrong. I was just curious if there was something different. I really like it.
well,
I felt terrible. I felt terrible. I told my wife, I was like, I think I just.
Is that when we drank it?
Yeah. I texted him the next day.
Yeah.
And then I told my wife, I was like, I'm pretty sure I just freaked out the guy who here and runs his brewery. It was an honest, just like regular question. Like, is there something different with this? And I should have like just put in my mind, like, maybe don't be so vague about it, because that's
you were very vague about it.
A little
So
clarification there, bud.
Yeah, sorry.
well, I mean, we're looking for stuff. I mean, we're looking for stuff like that because, I mean, it's, that's like our most expensive beer that we make, and we've been nurturing it for over a year, and it's crazy, ridiculously expensive to make, and
Crazy delicious.
we want to make sure that there's no problems with it. There will be slight variations. I will say with some of our stouts that they've been perceived as being a little thinner recently, and it's because we switched our yeast, and we have a high gravity yeast that kind of chews through a lot of things, and so we want to get a nice attenuation, and we want to have a nice high alcohol. Like, we want to easily be able to hit a 14% beer, and but then we have to kind of back that up with different adjuncts to bring that thickness back into the beer. And so it's kind of it's a balancing act, because you want to make sure that your yeast can get that. You asked about Bourbon County Stout. They're always in the 14 and a half, and that's really hard to achieve with just regular homebrew yeast or whatever. You can't do that with US-05. And a lot of people.
What? Son of a bitch. That's why we can't do it. We're stuck at 11%. Damn it.
Yeah, it's always 10 and a half, but then, like, well, you get 2% from the barrel, you don't really know. So I'd say was probably the main change on it. And we were using a different chocolate source.
That's what it was, because I think I finally brought it up. I was like, no, the chocolate just tasted a little different, because Brandon and I were talking about that. In fact, that was a rough night for me and Brandon. We drank a lot that night. Not only did we drink that, but we drank the year-aged Fanny's original. That was a fun night. We got a little further into doing some other stuff, but
yeah.
Let's say we ended the night.
About that.
We ended the night drinking Weller. It was fine.
Yeah.
You would have enjoyed the night. We were by a fire and everything. It's right up it's right in your wheelhouse. Yeah. So that's, and I think that's for people who are not familiar with Lake Effect. The three beers that we drank tonight, I mean, that doesn't even cover, it shows a wide variety of what you do. But I mean, some of your flagship beers like, Falcon Dive and Bitchin' Blonde and just the Snow Wit, the Lake Effect Snow Wit, those beers themselves. I mean, Falcon Dive is one of my favorite local IPAs that goes with, like Ailman's IPA that when we did their episode with them, we were all around that time, we were, especially I know Clark and I were just very full into the hazy IPAs, and it was like, yeah, just everything's hazy and juicy. And then we had their Ailments IPA, and I was like, right, IPAs are also very, nice, and they can be dry and a little bit of sweetness and that nice hoppy bitterness. And Falcon Dive to me is a good balance of what I liked when I got into craft beer, of that citrusy bitterness without it being juicy, but being a nice, clean beer.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're the variety of beers that you put out are, to me, impressive. And I love the fact that you're a local brewery that, I see on the shelves when I go places, and that I've known you now for, Brandon and I have known you for a while. Clint or Clark, you're just getting to know Clint a little bit. So, you'll be his friend one day, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
Probably not. Clint,
I
I don't think you should do that. Clark's not that cool. Trust me.
Yeah, but speaking of variety, I went into the I shouldn't have done this. I went to the Barrel Club 2021 Barrel Club page. Boys, don't go there, because there's a lot of cool stuff coming.
I'm aware. I am well aware.
I spend a lot of money on beers, and I'm probably going to be spending some more money on beers. A lot of cool stuff. Clint, is there one that you're really excited about that is either new or something different that you haven't done before?
Yeah, there's a lot on there. The past week, we've been working a lot with color, like trying to get the color just right on certain of the beverages. One was our cherry goza, and then we're doing a lot of beers with hibiscus, and so we have the halakahiki aging in rum barrels. We also put some in wine barrels just for the fun of it, and then we had pineapple liqueur, and so those are all going to be real fun. I'm real excited about just the regular halakahiki, because we're finally going to put a barcode on the label selling at stores. I think that one's going to do really well, because we have just such a nice recipe on that. And then tomorrow we're brewing a beer with Eris, and
nice.
it's going to be kind of like a saison. Not sure, we're not sure what it is, but it's going to be a beer that we are going to blend the unfermented cider and age in a wine barrel.
Ooh,
and
nice.
So it's going to be, the base beer is just going to be really, really regular. And for some reason, the yeast I have on hand, I've decided just to go ahead and use it as a Kolsch yeast.
Oh, cool.
So, it's just what we have. So it'll go well, but yeah, it's going to be a wheat and Pilsner. And then I think I'm going to put a little bit of Special B in it to give it a little bit darker, kind of raisiny.
I'm a fan of Special B. That's one of the malt or the grains that I messed around with the right way when I used it the first time, because I know if you use too much of it, it really stands out. And I want to do an oatmeal cookie brown ale one day where I use a little bit of Special B in there to get that raisiny in there.
Yeah, that's raisiny.
And I'll bring you some, Clint, 'cause I know you're a fan of the brown ales. Highly underrated style there, man.
Yeah, so those will be good. But yeah. And this year for the Scotch ale, for the Isla ale, we're gonna just use bourbon barrels for it, and we're gonna kind of turn the recipe around where we use peated malt in the grain bill.
Awesome.
Get the peaty flavor that way. rather than bring in the Scotch barrels and do it the other way. So we want to see how that works.
Those Scotch barrel aged beers, though, were pretty good. Brandon, me, you, and your father-in-law got to try some of those. Remember that?
Yeah, and he bought a bunch.
Yeah, brought it back. In fact,
He still talks about them.
Kevin, my cousin Kevin, has been on the show and does the After the Final Pour theme song. He just bought. What do you have out there that's right now that would be available? That's a Scotch ale.
I have both. I have both of the barley wines, the Isla and the Space Side, and then we just have a regular Scotch ale, but it's heavily peated. It's pretty smoky.
I'll find out which one he got because I remember.
Yeah,
the it being. I told him like, if you like Scotch, then smokiness, you'll.
Yeah, it's a beautiful looking beer,
like
but
it. So he does like Scotch. So I'll find out what he thinks about it.
It's a little smoky though, but yeah. A little off.
Yeah. Before we wrap things up here, I do want to touch on we started the show with it as a little teaser, but you have officially acquired a space that you had I'm just going to say it, been fighting for quite some time. It looks like it's finally coming to fruition, and you will officially have a tap room soon.
Yeah, that's the plan. It's been a fight. It's been going on forever. And if the process wasn't long enough, then just the drama was crazy too.
That's our neighborhood.
Yeah, I was put on edge. I mean, we didn't know what was going to happen. And finally, things started falling in place. I mean, it was 3 years ago, over almost 3.5, going on 4 years when I walked into the alderman's office to ask about what sort of available, like, do you know of any empty buildings that's going on in the neighborhood? And, I got introduced to the developer, and we hit it off pretty well. And but anyway, just the process to purchase a city building is just outrageously long and complicated. And then at the very end of it, like, the door kind of opened where they asked for alternatives, and it's just part of the process. And it's not an open bidding or anything like that. That's what it was made to. There's a massive PR campaign saying, no, it was an open bid. And it wasn't. It was just, this is the project, but we want to see, if there's any alternatives out there. And which it happened at the very end of the process. And a couple of ideas came in, and then they picked ours, and then they got all bent out of shape because they said, wait a second, that was a bidding process. We didn't have access to the building, this and that. It's unfair. Due process has been broken, blah, blah, blah. This is corrupt. Yeah, they're accusing us of being like corrupt. Like, I don't have any money or anything.
Clint doesn't have enough time to be
corrupt. Pay off a politician. And I live in the neighborhood too. They try to make us sound like outsiders. That was the funniest thing, was just, this guy's an outsider. It's like, no, I have a business in the neighborhood, dude, and I live in the neighborhood. Like,
you walk to your job.
Yeah. And the developer, his office is on, like, Lawrence at Milwaukee Avenue. I mean, it's like, you can't get any closer. So, but anyway, yeah, it just kind of dragged on, and we felt like we always had it, but it was just, I never really felt like we had the full support of people that make the decision. like we just couldn't get a good read on it. But at the end of the day, we were supported, and so we're happy for that. But yeah, I went through city council, and the council voted on it. I mean, the big issue, at least the public issue, was that the building was, I guess the way the story read was they're giving the building away. But the problem was the building had all this asbestos and lead paint that was
Healthy.
like the remediation was way more than what the building was worth.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a moot point that we're giving the building away because, like, you know, it's the city's responsibility to clean the building up.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can't sell someone a negative building.
Well, and I liken that. So the kind of just a quick like analogy, I liken that to like if you go to buy a house and you go into the house and this person's like, this place is perfect. It's turnkey. And you go, it's like, well, there's lead paint on the wall. There's holes in the floor. There's this and that. Like, and you go and do your punch list and they say, okay, look, if you buy this house from us for $200,000, it's going to cost you $300,000 to fix it up. Like, so I'm basically buying a house for $300,000. The opposite happened. Like in this situation, it was, you guys had people go in that were professionals and kind of looked at what it would cost to fix all of that up. And they came up with a value and they pitched a price. And it just so happened that those two values kind of met almost face to face. Like they were selling it for almost $300,000 or whatever it was. And the remediation cost almost $300,000. There was like $1 difference. So it's like, you know, give us $1, you get the house or you get the firehouse. So it was like, people don't look at it that way though. They look at it at like the city.
No, they're talking about the land value and, you know. So, I mean, the whole time, like that really kind of stresses out. And then the local newspaper was very much on the, you know, not on our side. And they were writing these terrible articles that, anyway, and then on top of everything else, they just copied our idea. That's all they did.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember seeing
said,
that.
we're gonna have a brewery. What brewery? I don't know.
And then people were like, well, what brewery are you gonna have? And they're like, oh, we don't have one named yet. It's like, really?
But it's a Chicago brewery.
Yeah. Okay.
It was us. We were going to start our own brewery, Clint. We brought you on the show to tell you that.
Well, and that whole thing was silly. And like the thing with the local paper, like, I don't think we need to name them, but like they're local.
Yeah. I mean, I've got no issues or anything with it. It felt like I don't know. It just felt like the presidential election or something. It was just like there's this huge messaging about like all this stuff, and it's like, man, we've been here for 3 years. We've been working on this forever, and we've been on the track.
Why now? Like at the last hour?
Like, why would someone take that away from? Like, we would like that. See. There would have been a lawsuit for that, and the city would have lost that one because we did everything they asked. So we'd have to undo everything. Like the zoning was approved, the development was approved. I mean, everything was approved, and so that was there was a court case, and that's what the judge said is like you can't reverse all this stuff. Like you're asking me to reverse, you know. All these decisions made by the legislature, and you can't do that. You should have done this like a year ago.
Yeah.
And anyway, so it was very stressful, but we've gotten through that part of it. But we still have more to go, and you know, we have the build out, and we have all the licensing.
Yeah. Now there's like physical work that has to be done now, you know, like
that's like, to me, for most people that's the hard part of the project, but you know, it takes the longest. But I mean, we have a 3-year prerequisite onto that. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
You got
it's-
plans and stuff ready to go.
I think now, like, not dealing with the stress of all the legality BS as far as like securing the place. I think now, like, in my shoes, I would be looking like there's some enjoyment of like, okay, this is going to happen. Now we can make this as our own. Like, we've got plans and schematics of what we want it to look like, but like physically getting into the building and being like, all right, this is going to go there and this is going to go there. Like,
Actually
that's
doing
where the
it, yeah.
fun. And you're an architect by trade, like, right? Like, so this is like right up your alley.
My wife-
Spoiler alert.
She's a better architect than I am, but yeah.
But
yeah,
I mean, still,
we-
like, this has to be like, there has to be at least some enjoyment, like getting into this and being able to do this part, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, we were told early on, like, don't do too much because you never know what's going to happen. But we were, yeah. I mean, it's just every time I walk past the building, I just imagine it lit up and the doors open and people outside. Because there's just nothing going on, and it's been like that forever. It's been that way for. I mean, I'm not from this neighborhood. But
Outsider.
I worked on, because I used to do urban planning, and I worked on the urban plan under the previous alderman, Pat LeVar, and like nothing has changed since then, and it's just, I mean, there's got to be some. I mean, I just can't believe that. We're right next to like the second busiest transit hub. I mean, this place should be and it is bustling with people. They just don't have anywhere to go. There's nowhere to go. and that's, so I just imagine now that, there'll be a place to have a beer and sit out and enjoy, on your way home from work or whatever. And we'll have all kinds of events. And we'll do have all kinds of great beers. We're going to have a kitchen, so we've got someone who is I can't say who it is, but we've got someone lined up to.
There's no exclusive here on the podcast. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we haven't signed anything, but we've got.
You can't tell us that it's Gordon Ramsay. Come on.
We've been wrong about guesses in the past about collaborations and stuff like that. I missed I said Malort barrel age something for Rev, and that was way wrong. So maybe we're gonna say it here. It's gonna be Gordon Ramsay. That's our prediction. It's Gordon Ramsay. That's our prediction. We'll see what happens.
Going to be wrong.
As usual.
Yeah, we'll all kill that guy. Seems like such an asshole to work with.
I think that I'm going to speak for all three of us, as I normally do, that we're all very happy for you. We're all very excited that where you've started, where you're at, and how you've dealt with just running a business in general, but also through the pandemic and everything that you've done. That you getting that space for your actual tap room is a huge win, and it's a huge win for our neighborhood and our community. Chicago is bustling with breweries. We have a lot of good beers here in Chicago, and you are definitely among those in the top tier in our books as far as beers that are delicious, readily available, and just a nice wide variety. And you're a good dude, and we love talking with you. We love hanging out with you, and we love having you on the show, man.
If anything, it's karma coming back.
Mm-hmm.
All the good you did last year, I think, came back and kind of helped solidify that deal. Because I know there was question too. There's a new alderman versus the alderman that came in originally and approved this, but in the end, he supported it. He came in and he was like, you know what? Yeah. I'm not gonna squash this deal. So kudos to him for doing what's right for the neighborhood. Like, not for a business, but for the neighborhood in general. I think that was a good call.
Yeah, he was actually at the public meeting that we had at Copernicus Center, And we didn't know obviously who he was at the time or who he would become, but he was sitting in the crowd, and he, in our first meeting, he just said, this is the right thing for the neighborhood, and we need this. And we just, whatever you need to happen will happen. It was just the dollar thing later on that like
set everybody off.
We're kind of like, hold on a second.
Yeah. No, and I get it.
We weren't sure, like that put a little down in there, but I think that's just how the city does the business, and that's what it was, and he knew that, like deep down he knew that, but I think just the dollar, politically
it's going to be great for the neighborhood overall. So there is no, a dollar here is a huge win for the neighborhood, and again, it puts that property back on the city coffers for taxes.
We'll pay so much tax, they'll forget about that. Like,
Clint can't wait to get taxed for all that property and all that business. Like,
they don't even want to. That whatever was offered for that building, it won't matter. Just the sales tax. And
at least us three will make sure that there's people in there all the time.
Yeah. Well, and of course, once you open up, by you being on this episode, once you open up, you have now basically like an end user agreement of saying you accept our terms. We're gonna come into the brewery and do another episode there. Sounds good. Awesome. Thanks, Clint, for okaying that.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
But in all seriousness, thanks again, Clint, for joining us. It's nice to have you back on the show, man. We love your beers. You're a good guy, and we're glad that you're a part of our neighborhood. And we look forward to drinking more of your beers this year, and we look forward to Clark spending his money on the Barrel Club and us, maybe stealing some beers from his house when he's not looking. Everybody go to, if you're on the Northwest side or any, in Chicago, go, look up Lake Effect. Is it just lakeeffectbrewing.com? Is that your webpage?
That's it. Yep.
Perfect. Look at that. Nice and simple. Look it up. See if you guys can have beer delivered to you, or swing by and just grab some beer. Clint's a nice guy, as you've heard. It's a cool place, and it might be a little tricky to find, but once you find it, you'll be happy that you did, because everybody that works there is super cool.
And if you happen to be shopping for a costume, a Chicago costume, you may inadvertently walk through something that is not actually a wall and end up in a brewery. So
there you go.
It happened to me a couple of times, and vice versa. You walk through something, it's like, wait, I'm in a costume shop now.
Well, Clint, this won't be the last. This won't be the last time we talk to you. I'm sure we'll find a reason to talk to you maybe later this year and drink some more beers with you. Hopefully, maybe we'll do it in person. Let's hope that happens. But if not,
I think we'll be able to have. I think we're going to start tours and VIP events and stuff, like as soon as probably the summer, like when everybody's vaccinated. We're all working on our vaccinations now, and
this whole crew right here, all three of us are working on it right now.
Yeah, I heard today that 10% of the country is now fully vaccinated. So that's pretty fast. It's coming.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I got my first shot today, and the chip in my arm just itches a little bit.
Oh God!
And then I got this weird twitch I can't get rid of.
That's not true. Everybody,
it's not true.
Go get vaccinated. All right, I think that's gonna do it for this week's episode. Clint, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Clint.
Thank you.
Brandon, I love you, man.
Love you too, Tony.
Clark, I love you, man.
I love you, man.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
This has been The Malting Hour. Be sure to follow us on all social media by searching The Malting Hour and at themaltinghour.com. You can also follow us on social media platforms individually. Brandon can be found on Instagram as BMDub81, on Twitter, BDub81, on Untapped, BDub Drinks Beer. Tony can be found on Instagram and Untapped under Asa Phelps Chicago. On Twitter, The Asa Phelps Chicago. Clark can be found as Clarkowski on all three. Be sure to subscribe, like, and rate the show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Until next time, cheers from all of us at The Malting Hour.
Bye.